the president, or to prevent an invasion, a Russian invasion of Ukraine. The president this morning holding a call with leaders of Germany, France, as well as the UK, while Vice President Kamala Harris traveled to the Munich Security Conference to meet with the UN Secretary General. Let's bring in Charles Kupchan. He's Council on Foreign Relations Senior Fellow. He's also former Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director for European Affairs on the staff of the National Security Council under President Obama. Charles, it's good to talk to you today. Just give me a sense of the state of play. I think for our viewers who have been following this story, it's sort of been a will they or won't they invade. Where do things stand right now?
The good news is that the channels of communication are open. The U.S. is talking to its allies. The U.S. is talking to Russia. The Ukrainians are in the mix. So the diplomacy continues. The bad news is that we see upwards of maybe 130 up to 150,000 Russian troops on the border with Ukraine. We don't know whether this is coercive diplomacy or preparation for a Russian invasion. But right now, we're in a very dangerous moment. Putin can't keep those forces on the border at high states of readiness forever. If he's going to move, it's probably in the next few weeks. So stay tuned.
Charles, let's talk about the best case scenario here, which would be, in fact, for diplomacy to take its course, short of the U.S. and NATO allies essentially guaranteeing that Ukraine will not be a part of NATO. What can be, what kind of promises is Russia looking for right now in order to pull back on the military side?
Well, Putin has asked for a legal guarantee that Ukraine will never join NATO. That's not going to happen. The alliance stands by its principled commitment to the open door policy, basically saying that, listen, nobody should be able to bully and coerce their neighbors, including Russia. That having been said, I think we all know that Ukraine is not now under consideration for membership and is unlikely to be on the path to membership anytime soon. The Ukrainian president just a few days ago said, hey, maybe membership in NATO is a dream. And so there's wiggle room here. And one would hope that the diplomats could finesse this issue, allow NATO to stand by the open door policy, but everyone recognizes that it's not going to be implemented for Ukraine today, tomorrow, or any time in the foreseeable future. Couple other moving pieces. One is what's called the Minsk agreements, and that is a framework for granting a certain measure of autonomy to the separatist-controlled regions in eastern Ukraine in return for Russia getting out. And then there's also a broader discussion that's taking place about the European security architecture, and that encompasses nuclear arms control, conventional arms control, greater transparency. We'll have to see where these conversations go.
Charles, if we look at this from the market perspective, it does feel like there's growing fears that this could drag on for a bit longer than anticipated. You were in the Obama administration during the annexation of Crimea, and I wonder if there are lessons that can be learned from that to see how this could potentially play out and how Russia plans to play this.
Well, the stakes for the market are much bigger than they were in 2014. Because if Russia does go in a significant way, we're going to see very far-reaching sanctions against Russia. That will have the biggest impact upon Europe because of economic interdependence, because of Europe's reliance on Russian oil and gas. But there's no question that it will rattle the market globally, that it could lead to a spike in oil prices, that Europe could face not just high prices, but shortages. China is going to have to consider whether it might want to breach secondary sanctions when it comes to trade with Russia. So the economic stakes here could be very significant. That's why we need to watch so carefully Russia's next moves.
Charles, you highlighted some of the economic stakes there. What are the stakes for the U.S.? Natural gas, of course, a big issue for Europe with that direct pipeline. That's not necessarily the case in the U.S. So what are the implications for the U.S.?
Well, they're not as immediate and as grave as the implications for Europe. And the Biden administration, in my mind, correctly, has been working behind the scenes to backfill Europe's energy need. We're seeing more liquid natural gas get directed to the Europeans, just in case there is a reduce in the flow from Russia or even a cutoff. And we heard today, for the first time explicitly at the Munich Security Conference, Germany's foreign minister say, hey, you move, it's goodbye Nord Stream 2. But I do think that the biggest issue here is the geopolitical impact of a major war. And this could be the largest war in Europe since World War II, the impact of that on global equity markets. And so for me, that is the biggest risk of that faces the investors today.
Well, Charles, we appreciate your insights this morning. Charles Kupchan, Council on Foreign Relations Senior Fellow. Appreciate you joining us today.